Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The Sami and peace out to the rest of you. Black heart, black mind, black end. Shining again. Hit the share button, you know why. Listen, as a pro-black man, naturally I would prefer to tell us to keep it black. Unfortunately, we all know that that can't happen. Now, we can keep it black to a certain extent, but we can't keep it black American. We can't even keep it black Canadian or black British all the time. It's not possible. I'm going to say this quite aggressively. The black family is dead. Long live the black family. Now, that's in my title. So, of course, you're thinking, okay, you know what? Black mind, them two are mutually exclusive. What the wuck are you talking about, ninja? Well, see, I know they sound mutually exclusive on the surface. Let me explain why I said these two sentences that are mutually exclusive to each other. Here's why. Check this out. The black family, they get started under non-family circumstances. Usually get started because she chose to not really start a family, but she chose to sit and spin on a particular man that meets our enemy's negative stereotypes of us. Otherwise, she wouldn't view him as a man to begin with. He has to be a niggerilla before she sees him as a man. His manhood is tied directly to his embodiment of the enemy's negative stereotypes. Now, I could say that this might happen maybe in one other community. Some of the Latin American communities from Mexico and Central America, you might see this to a certain extent. I've heard about it. She only likes cholos, essay. I've heard that before. Or stupid. I can't date her. She only wants cholos. I've heard that before, but for the most part, it's them in our community that have this problem. Only in these cases does the reproductive success of a man, by any definition of the word success, meaning even one-time reproductive success of a man, depends on his embodiment of the enemy's negative stereotypes of him. The Palestinians have problems. This ain't one of them. I'm always telling you other groups got problems, but for the most part, this ain't one of them. The Chinese woman does not demand that her man be a kung fu master. The Japanese woman does not demand that her man be a samurai or a ninja. Let's say the ninja, because the negative stereotype does not surround the samurai, although in real history, they acted pretty badly, to be honest with you. But as far as the popular conception is, no, not really. Or a Yakuza member. She does not demand that her husband be a Yakuza member. This is not a requirement. You go into many Arab countries, he does not have to be a terrorist with a bomb strapped to himself for them to see him as a man. You go into South America, there may be gangs, but they don't have to be this way for the women to see them as men. That's not how this works. You go into Black Canada, Black America, parts of Black Britain, and some of the Latin American communities from Mexico and, Central America, and those are the only times I know of this phenomena existing. Now, in the Philippines, you got gangs, and they will kill you. But does a man have to be in a gang to be viewed as a man? And I haven't heard about that. Haven't heard that before. So anyway, you get the idea. That's when a lady makes the wrong choice and starts a non-family type family. That's dead. That's the actual main reason for the destabilization of what black family does exist for the most part. I mean, as a whole, collectively. Now, individually, there are exceptions to this, of course. Those are the ones to whom I say, long live the black family. Now you know why I said those two sentences right next to each other. One is not really a family. And there are all kinds of grays in between, I understand that. But when a family is started with not only the intention to actually be a family, but it is also started with a balance of rights and responsibilities between the two genders, then they have a shot. And some people say, well, what balance? See, that's a question that we are going to have to ask. What balance should there be between the rights and responsibilities of both genders to each other? And this is how, and I would answer that by saying, well, you know what? There's a program that's already out there for it, to be honest with you. There is a program that outlines the balance of rights of the husband over the wife and the rights of the wife over the husband and the responsibilities each one has to each other in exchange. But see, that's in Islam. And a lot of you don't want to hear me tell you that. It's there. I'm not an expert in it. I know enough, but it is there. Now, I'm not an expert, and I can clearly see that this is a model that can work. And we're going to need something that's going to work to stabilize what families we do have left through the economic repercussions of this current pandemic. Because the black family's been through nothing but onslaughts, even on the continent. Oh, yes. And to a certain extent, wherever the white man goes in the Middle East, I said it. It's because of him. Wherever they go in the Middle East, they try the same stuff. Oh, yeah. Did you know that Basra, Iraq has I wouldn't say a thriving, but it's got a sizable black community? Oh, yeah. Basra, Iraq has one that is large enough to where if black people had the same communal rights as other minorities based on religion have, they would have a seat in parliament guaranteed. Did y'all know that? The reason there's no black Iraqi in the parliament is because black folks don't have the same protections that, let's say, Shia or Zaidi or other religious minorities have. Other minorities based on religion. They're a minority based on race, and so they don't have these protections. Oh, yeah. In 2011, did you know, and this, mind you, this is under U.S. occupation. Did you know that some centers were set up in the black communities of Basra only for the women? I'm not upset that women had access. I'm upset that men didn't. And this was to teach them skills more valuable than the ones that the men traditionally have passed down from father to son, because they're not allowed certain jobs in many cases. It's not legally that they're denied. It is that it's just by tradition, they're seen as being the musicians. They play music at weddings. And I'm just going to call it like it is. When this community center was set up under U.S. occupation, only for the women to teach them valuable coding and computer skills, as soon as I read it, I said, oh, God damn, they're doing it again. I'm glad they're teaching the women something. The problem is they're teaching them something specifically that's going to make more money for them and stabilize them financially, and not the men, specifically so that they can disrupt black families, even in Iraq. They don't play. They're not playing around. So we've been through onslaughts in the United States. Everywhere, really. We've been through them in the rest of the Americas, and we've been through them in the motherland. South Africa is a prime example. The real South African women could get jobs, not good paying jobs, but they could get jobs more easily than the men. The men could barely get them. So the women after a while were like, I can get a job and he can't. What the F is wrong? And they were made unaware that white folks in South Africa who did the hiring, they largely trusted black women. If I really hated Egyptians like some people think I do, I don't hate them. I just don't like the way they talk. It's not Arabic. It's confusing. And I think that they're very self-centered. But I don't hate them. But if I did hate them, you know what I would do? Simple. Once I took control of Egypt, I'd give all the women the jobs and give the men none. Or I'd give the women the better jobs and give the men the worst. That would destabilize. That by itself could destabilize the family. Now, when you add in what I'm going to do with the media, and what kind of products I'm going to make available to the market and how I would change the laws, guarantee they would have no stable families left. They wouldn't do half as well as we've done. And yes, I'd make available funding for movies that glorify thug niggas. The most negative stereotypes that people who hate Arabs could have of Arabs. I would make movies where these are the only ones that are real men and all the other men are weak, be-made cowards. I'd have women running after the worst dudes. And of course, after getting the fifth woman pregnant and not staying for the kid, of course, he would go and strap a bomb to himself, and then, now he can't be there for his kids. Yeah, that's what I would do. So, I could destabilize. If I have control over a nation, I can destabilize its family structure, and I'm just one man. So what you think a whole race of people that is genetically or afraid of genetic annihilation from others capable of doing? Now that family that is started by the Boomshika and the Bonquisha and the Sophista Ratchet Sapphire, that's not really a family in the first place, is the one that is, it is dead, and it is trying to drag the rest of us to the grave with it. That family's dead. The ones that are started with at least the intention, long live. But the only ones that are actually going to survive with stability into the coming generations are going to be the ones with a clear-cut set of rights and responsibilities for each gender in a balance. And I don't know of a program that addresses that more specifically than the revelation of Islam. So that's why I've been telling you. And that's why I've been saying, research it behind my back and you'll find out. That's why I've been saying that. And to Omar Ba, you may say, well, how come you won't debate me? I'm not supposed to engage with apostates. You know the rules. You left the faith. So I'm not saying this necessarily out of hatred. Actually, I'm supposed to hate you because you left the faith, but I'm delinquent in that regard. But I'm not supposed to engage with you and you know it. Nothing personal, but you leave the faith. I mean, you were in it and you knew what was going on and you left it. You didn't leave it because of anything other than you didn't want to exercise certain parts of self-discipline, or someone lied to you about your own religion and for whatever reason you believed them. If that is the case, it's best to take that up with a sheikh who could really help to dispel the doubts that a Muslim or an ex-Muslim would have. There are people who specialize in that to help you find your faith again. I'm not one of those specialists, and that's actually what you need, not someone to debate with, especially not me. Anyway, that being said, I can't sit up and say that there's some other program that deals with it that well. But see, if you ain't Muslim and you take this program on, your family could survive with stability into the coming generations. If you are Muslim and you don't take on these particular rules, even though they're a part of your faith, and you don't put them into practice, your family will become unstable, especially with the coming onslaughts that we're going to face. And your family could actually disappear, vanish, and not even be known to be your descendants after a while. This can happen. So in other words, the rules, while found in the faith, can actually work for anybody outside the faith that takes on these rules. And they ain't going to work for people inside the faith that don't put them into practice, just to be fair. I mean, some of y'all say, well, how do we know that black is being objective? I mean, you are a Muslim, aren't you biased? I am, but to be fair, it'll work if you ain't Muslim if you put this into practice. However, if you ain't Muslim and you put it into practice, why would your coming generations keep it in practice? That's where your actual faith comes in. But as long as it's in practice, it can work, even through an onslaught. And we're about to face that. I mean, it's already started, really. So this being said, yes, let's talk about the black family that's dying because it's trying to drag the rest of us in with it. I'm not going to sit up here and tell you that the destabilized black families are the fault of black men. They are the fault of some black men, a minority. We already know this. DNA is starting to prove this stuff. We already now know that the majority of moderately attractive and attractive Western women, not just black, but Western women, are funneling themselves into the bedrooms of like 13% of the men. Go on dating apps and dating sites, and they have studies that will tell you this. About 13%, some say even 10%, are having most of the sexual encounters. We already know that when the outcry from the majority of the Boomshikas and the Bonquishas, the majority of the matriarchs and the gynocrats, comes about not protecting the black women and not being there for the black children, we already know. It is directed at the majority of black men, but the majority of black men not only had nothing to do with that, but were never allowed to have anything to do with that. At some point, I got to say it, at some point you're going to have to sexually select a man before you can hold him accountable for families and children. That's just what it is. If you were not related to a man, you must sexually select that man before you can talk to him about provision and protection. If you're related to him, no biggie, but then chances are you would do certain things for them anyway. Certain types of genuine familial affection. But if you ain't related to him and you don't owe him any kind of affection, then God damn it, he don't owe you no kind of protection or provision. Brothers, I'm mostly talking to you. If she ain't related to you and she doesn't owe you any affection, you don't owe her any kind of provision or protection. It's not because you hate her, it's because you don't know her. Now, I've listened to Search for a Hoodoo's first half of his video entitled "Why Do Black Women Feel Unprotected?" or "Why Do Black Women Say Black Men Don't Protect Them?" with Kai Giambi, I think. And if I'm mispronouncing her name, I'm sorry, but I can't see the video on my screen right now. As a matter of fact, you know what? Give me a moment. I can. Oh, this is great. Oh, this is cool. My girlfriend just sent me a message. Hold on, y'all. Give me a second. Nope, sorry, I couldn't find the name of it. So you'll just have to find it yourselves. But in that video, there's an African lady from Togo living in the UK, I believe, and she says, we don't feel unprotected or neglected and abandoned. And he had to tell her, look, it can get extreme in the States. There are those who really do need protection, and they don't really have to talk about it that much. I mean, there are those who deserve protection, but they don't have to talk about it. They don't necessarily go around putting themselves in positions to need it, but then the ones who talk about it put themselves in position to need it. And they're judging the men the most sternly by how protected they feel after they provoke stuff. It's not normal. It's not logical. It makes no sense to anybody, to be honest with you. And so, that being said, he had to tell her about this. And then there were two ladies that came on, both African American, one multi-generational African American, ADOS, and the other one Caribbean American. I count that as African American if you're born in the States to Caribbean parents, because then you understand both. So culturally speaking, you're just both. See, Caribbean Africans they've got a dual understanding because they know slavery and colonization. People on the continent, some of them know slavery, but not like the American version. They know colonization. We in North America don't know colonization per se. You could say we've been colonized too. We do know slavery, definitely. Now, we don't know colonization on our own land, but we do know a type of colonization if you want to argue that point. In the Caribbean, by any stretch of the imagination, they know both. They were stolen from home, made their home elsewhere, and they were colonized there, even when they were the majority. Anyway, the Caribbean American told the African American, you're in a good situation. Please tell others about it so that they can choose better, because the choices, and this is just the first half, the choices that the ADOS ladies make by majority are ucked fup. And the ones who do choose well, they don't have a reason to discuss it as much, but if they did, they would be silenced. Shantae Moore did a song about that. Shantae's got a man at home. Y'all remember that? I barely remember much of the song. I just remember that chorus, that hook. But yeah, she had a song about that. I'm not going to sit up here and join you all in bashing these men. I got a man at home. Yeah, but see, that's the funny thing about it. It was the one from the Caribbean that said, you cannot imitate the white man in everything you do and then blame the black man because he can't liberate you from that system. And they brought up Tyrone Muhammad and the thanks he got for what he did. And I'm going to say this. Gentlemen, I'm telling you this because it ain't going to do me no good to tell the Boom Shikas and the Bonquishas and the Sapphires. And to the ladies who are listening who mean well, I mean you well too, and you're included in this address. I'm just going to update y'all on what happens in other communities when they're fighting rebellions, the women partake or the rebellion fails. End of story. It doesn't matter if the rebellion is in somebody else's country or if it's in your own land against colonization, against invasion. Whatever the case is, when there is a resistance and an insurgency, at the end of the day, the women partake. That means they do things that are illegal, for which the governing or invading power will penalize them too if they catch them. They do these things to support the men at the very least. If they're not on the front lines, which they don't have to be, they provide logistical support. Messengers, all sorts of things. Hiding guns, hiding fugitives. And one thing they don't do, They may not marry anybody, but they do not sit up here and take the worst, most negative men of their group and screw their brains out and then take the revolutionaries and reward them with celibacy. If it's celibacy for everybody. It's definitely not going to be the ones that are most destructive to their own people that get the most booty and have the most kids. That ain't going to happen. This is not normal. The expectation is not normal. But what's really not normal is the damn demand that is being made of Black America that Boom Shika, Bonquisha, and Sophista Ratchet Sapphire are making of the community. We demand to do this and get away with it and pay no price for it. Are you effing kidding me? They insist on this like no, we should be able to do this and you don't say anything about it. You don't protest. It's okay. It's fine. We're right for doing this. Who are you to demand otherwise? My body, my choice. But then when that choice means no support from dad or not enough support from dad, usually not even because dad's a deadbeat, but because dad simply can't, then it becomes, well, what are you going to do for the kids in the community? And I'm going to tell you all about my man, Jet Black, JB. That's just think of him as JB. His initials stand for Jet Black. He's in my hometown in the Gulf Coast. And you know, it gets this time of year, it's hot and humid. You need some water. He's out there grilling for the kids in the hood, passing out cold drinks, telling them, say it, I am powerful. Tells him to say these self-affirmations. And I'm going to tell y'all straight like this. When he was a knucklehead nigga, and he wasn't that bad of a knucklehead, but when he was a knucklehead and he killed someone in self-defense, he could have ran up and as many women as he wanted to. He looked at that incident and he said, damn, I was living a ratchet lifestyle, and that's why I wound up having to do it. It was self-defense. I didn't start the conflict, but if I'd been living a different lifestyle, I wouldn't even come across them. So he decided to turn his life around and be positive. All of a sudden, he has no kids. I mean, he didn't have them before. What I'm saying is now he can go years and not have kids because they don't want him. Because of the positive decision that he made, his height does not help him. They don't want him. They want him to be there for them babies that they had by some no good niggas, but they don't want to have his babies. They should be lining up for this, and they're not. See, this is not about me. A lot of y'all think, oh, black mind's just mad because he didn't get them draws. No. See, I can understand why I didn't. I've already said it. If you're actually trying to preserve your race, you don't know you can do that when you look at me. I don't hold that against you per se. You just got to be honest about it. Don't lie. And the lying and the deception are a major part of this. Listen to Jay Cash's responses to me, part 1 and part 2. He corroborates what I've been saying about the confusion and the lying, the gaslighting that goes on. And that's when you ain't no ugly man. You just look different. You got to go through that stuff. But see, my man Jet Black, he ain't got them lining up like that. They line up with their little kids by some other niggas so they can get them free meals and some cold drink if they put their right fist up and say, I am powerful. Ain't nobody coming to save us. Okay, all right. Fair enough. Guess what? If he's willing to look after the babies that ain't his, how come he ain't got none of his own? He's not a monk. Y'all just ain't picking him. None of you, and I know because I've been checking up on him, none of you are picking him. He's spending his own money for the community. And ain't near sister checking for him, especially not no attractive ones. So I'm just going to straight say it. He is rewarded with celibacy for the sacrifices that he is making, and no other community does that. They may not drop the drawers as a reward, but they damn sure ain't gonna say to this guy, okay, well, you ain't never gonna get none. You ain't even gonna smell it, and I'm gonna drop the drawers for this dude over here that's actually shooting at us. That's not the way that happens anywhere in any society. If you're a revolutionary, you're a hero. So if you are celibate, everybody is. Sometimes it happens. But you ain't being rewarded with it, and then, somebody else is getting them draws, and then you presented with the baby like, if you're a real man, you take care of this other man's kid. That ain't happening. What you gonna do for these other men's kids? Man, how about you fit the guck out my face with that sure bit? Yeah, it's real. It's a problem. And people think this stuff is funny. I mean, we're dealing with communities wherein everybody thinks this is funny. It's hilarious. Oh, you see him, he's out here feeding the kids and doing all this stuff for the community. Yeah, but girl, he tried to holler at me. He. I don't know why he thought, why shouldn't he? According to what you're saying, why shouldn't he? Your kids should be his kids if he's doing all of this. And what you're saying is your next kids ain't even going to be his under any circumstances. I mean, that's what a lot of them are saying. So, brothers, you got to understand that this is what being a community man gets you. So the black family, in large part in America and in Canada, in certain sectors of Black Britain, is unsustainable. I have pushed SYSBM for that reason, so the black family can be maintained only with non-Western black women as a whole. There are a few exceptions, but those exceptions are already snatched up. There are some Western black women that are great. I know they exist, but they're pretty much taken already. I mean, for one thing, they're honest with themselves. I'm looking for a man. I want to have a man in my life. And, men don't make that too difficult, so they're snatched up at a young age. So they're there, but they're taken. So they're not a part of this. They don't have to be a part of the discussion in many cases. What you got to understand is that you get to a certain age level and the ones that are still available, and it's not because their man died or they were just abandoned for no reason out the blue. They're there for a reason. And you can't build with them. So the state of the black nation, if you want to call it that, is due in large part to the instability of the family. That's the mechanism by which this is maintained. This is done by outside forces as well as internal forces. The internal forces are not the majority of black men. That's just all there is to it. It's a minority of black men that are never confronted with this in the first furthermucking place. Oftentimes, who, when they get older, are the ones telling us to stay put in the community and raise their kids that they made with somebody else. That's what's happening. So that's the black family that is dead, and it cannot be revived or saved because her mindset is not going to change. The black family that can live is the one that's going to implement the program I mentioned before, and that can only be done with the ones outside of the West. End of story. Because the ones in the West have collectively made their minds up. They will not do what it takes for the black family in the West to survive. They ain't gonna do it. Now, if they did make their minds up, the outside interference would increase, believe you me. So I'm not letting them off the hook. But right now, outside interference is hardly ever necessary except at a maintenance level, because the inside agent has decided unanimously, without having one meeting as far as we know, they've decided, no, we're not going to change our selection criteria to be better even for the next generation. Shuck that fit. Corny niggas don't make us wet. And they're not even going to change their understanding of what is actually corny and unmanly to begin with. They won't do that. Oh no. Swagger. And swagger means negative stereotypes in the minds of the enemy. Some of that niggerilla. That's what gets them wet. Nothing else. And they're not going to change this. So, gentlemen, you're going to have to understand. Sister George said, we ain't going to change till y'all start leaving. She said this. Well, gentlemen, that's why I've been pushing SYSBM even before I heard her say it. Because she simply said what is in the minds of many of them. Why change? They ain't leaving. So, you know what? You got to start leaving. You have to start leaving. And unfortunately, they may change at that point. They may not. But you got to leave to where it doesn't matter if they change or not. You can't save them. You just have to leave them. And it's only when they see when they actually see the doom approaching and there's no escape, they may change. It's too late. So, hey, look, you're going to die by yourself. That's it. And your kids that you insisted on having with the niggerilla, they don't have a role model. They don't have an example to break the cycle. Yeah, it's all right. It's just, okay. I think y'all understand what I'm getting at. I got to go. Thanks for listening. I hope that one day this won't be true. In the meantime, I hope it helps. Black heart, black mind, black out. Assalamu alaikum and black heterosexual non-select male power simply because they think you don't deserve it.